Hey everyone, and welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm your host, and in our previous explainer, we dug into the wild world of bug bounty programs and responsible disclosure. We basically looked at what happens when bugs manage to make it out into the wild. But today we're taking a much more proactive approach. We're going to talk about how to catch those bugs locally, way before they ever see the light of day. Because look, it's time to completely abandon the old developer prayer. You know the one, where you blindly change random lines of code, mash the save button, and just pray to the compiling gods that the red text magically disappears. Yet we're officially retiring that today. We're replacing blind hope with a systematic, rock-solid approach to debugging. Let's get into it.
So, here is our blueprint for today's engineering anomaly investigation. First, we'll look at what happens when good tests go bad. Then, how to isolate the failing test, diagnosing and hypothesizing, applying minimal fixes, and finally, putting together proper verification and debug reports. This is your step-by-step journey from a totally broken test suite to a documented, verified fix.
All right, section 1. When good tests go bad. Picture this. You run your Hardhat test suite, and suddenly, your terminal lights up with just a massive wall of red failure. Your heart sinks, right? But listen, when you see a failing test, panic is just not an option. Today, we're adopting the mindset of a lead systems engineer. A failing test isn't a disaster. It's honestly just a precise mechanical failure waiting to be investigated. And here's the core workflow to do exactly that. It's a 6-step technical procedure. Isolate, reproduce, inspect, hypothesize, fix, and verify. This specific sequence takes debugging from a frustrating, keyboard-smashing guessing game and turns it into a calm, repeatable engineering procedure. We're going to narrow down the search space step by step, which keeps you from making unnecessary, panicked edits that just end up breaking 3 other things anyway. Which brings us to section 2. Isolate the failing test. Think about it. What's the literal first action at any crime scene? Right, you tape it off. You secure the perimeter.
In our context, that means running the failing test file entirely on its own. Look at this comparison. Instead of just running npx hardhat test, which clumsily runs the entire noisy suite, we need laser focus. By pointing directly at a specific file, say test/token-transfer.test.js, and slapping on the -no compile flag, we save time because we know the contracts haven't actually changed yet. We're cutting out all the distractions and isolating the specific anomaly so we can reproduce it in a totally controlled environment. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is making sure our isolated test isn't failing just because of leftover junk from a previous test, and that is exactly where snapshot and revert come in. Think of snapshotting as your ultimate tool for keeping the test environment completely pristine. We save the precise EVM state, the Ethereum virtual machine state, right before a test, and then just restore it afterward. This prevents shared state leakage, which honestly is just a very fancy academic way of saying we're preventing one test's mess from ruining another test's day. Okay, section 3, diagnose and hypothesize. The crime scene is taped off. We've isolated the anomaly. Now it's time to actually gather some clues and formulate a working theory. This is where we have to stop looking at the error output as like a personal insult from the computer and start reading it like a treasure map. And to read that map, we need a magnifying glass. Enter the stack trace. By adding the -show stack traces flag to our Hardhat command, we get this incredibly detailed, step-by-step diagnostic report. It exposes the exact sequence of Solidity and JavaScript frames that led directly to the error. It literally tells us exactly which line of our smart contract dramatically threw its hands up and quit.
Let's look at a concrete clue to see how this plays out. Imagine you have an assertion in your test that expects the contract to revert with the message, ownable. Caller is not the owner, right? Because a non-owner is trying to mint tokens. But the actual error coming back in your terminal is cap exceeded. The assertion message completely mismatched. Why? Well, because the contract hit an unexpected supply cap limit before it ever even got to the line of code that checks ownership. It's kind of like expecting the bouncer to kick someone out for not being on the list, but instead, the fire marshal shut the whole club down because it's at capacity. The test is failing, but your ownership logic might actually be perfectly fine.
Moving on to section 4, apply minimal fixes. So we've gathered our clues and hypothesized the root cause. In our club capacity example, the root cause is a missing supply cap precondition. Now listen closely, because this is where devs usually get themselves into trouble. We do not rewrite the whole system. We apply the absolute smallest corrective change necessary. Instead of a flawed test that just aggressively tries to mint directly from a non-owner, We cleanly address our hypothesis. We add the missing precondition. We set a supply cap in the constructor, we explicitly test that the cap works, and then we test the ownership logic. We applied a minimal fix by aligning our test specification with the contract's actual layered logic, rather than tearing down the walls and starting over.
In fact, in the rigorous learning programs at Forge College, we rely heavily on schematic troubleshooting matrices like this one to map symptoms directly to causes. Let's break it down. If you have an assertion mismatch, you likely have an updated revert reason or a wrong precondition, so your action is to inspect the contract and add that precondition. Are intermittent failures driving you crazy? That is classic shared state leakage, so you reach for your EVM snapshots. Got a long-running suite that takes forever? You've probably mixed integration tests with your unit tests, so split them up and use CI tags. Seriously, commit this matrix to memory. It will save you hours of debugging despair.
All right, Section 5, Verification and Debug Reports. You found the bug, you applied a minimal fix, and the local test is finally passing. You're done, right? Well, not quite.
A fix isn't really real until it's verified and meticulously documented. But before we generate that report, let me throw one more powerful tool at you, the bail flag, or -bail. This is a command line instruction that forces the test suite to immediately halt upon encountering its very first failure. Now, the crucial point here is knowing when to use it. The bail flag is absolutely perfect for continuous integration servers, to catch issues early and save compute time. But it should generally keep it turned off locally while you're actively exploring, so you can survey multiple failures at once and really get the big picture. Okay, now let's document our victory. We need a solid record of what happened for the next engineer who comes along, which, let's be honest, is probably going to be you in 6 months, wondering what you were thinking. A proper debug report requires a few key things. You need the failing symptom, the minimal reproduction steps, your root cause hypothesis, the applied fix, and finally, the verification output showing 0 failing tests. This report serves as undeniable proof of your fix, and it acts as a massive cheat code for future diagnoses when your teammates inevitably run into a very similar issue.
And this brings us to the absolute golden rule of debugging. Treat tests as precise specifications. Tests are the unbending blueprints of expected behavior. When a test fails, you must pause and ask yourself, did my code break the blueprint, or is the blueprint actually out of date? Decide whether the specification or the implementation is at fault, and then act conservatively.
So you've mastered local debugging. You've got your EVM snapshots, your minimal fixes, and your pristine debug reports. You are officially crushing it locally. But let me leave you with this question to chew on. If your local tests are finally passing and green, are you actually prepared for the chaos of a public network? Because this local foundation is exactly what you need for what's coming next. Understanding Ethereum testnets. That's where latency, gas spikes, and network delays gleefully enter the chat.
But hey, you are well on your way. I highly encourage you to visit forge.college to dive much deeper into this subject, explore our other Web3-related topics, and truly master testing and diagnostics. Always remember, a failed test isn't a roadblock. It's simply an undocumented feature just waiting to be understood. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy debugging.